What's up everybody, my name is Razorblade, and today I'm going to be answering a few questions for a Q&A. It's been about 2 or 3 years since I've done any of these, which is kind of sad because I remember back when I first started the channel, I really enjoyed making Q&As and answering questions for you guys, and I tried to do it once a year, but then I just kind of stopped and everything. So I figured, why not bring it back? So I asked you guys on the YouTube community page and on my Twitter account if you guys wanted to ask a question, and a lot of you did. So I'm going to be answering some of those questions today. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Are there any obscure films or shows you ever wanted to talk about or share with on your channel? Well, that's actually funny you asked that question because what I'm reviewing for Halloween is one of these obscure films that I'm pretty sure most people have never really heard of. I'm not going to say the name of the film yet because, the review is right around the corner, but let's just say it's something you've definitely never heard of, and yes, it is a very weird movie. I also want to review this movie called Justin and the Knights of Valor, which is this weird How to Train Your Dragon knockoff that came out back in 2013. I remember it was directed by Puss in Boots of all things, and I just thought it was really weird. I remember I saw the movie back when it first came out, and I've been meaning to review it, but I never got around to it. Hopefully I'll try and review it sometime next year. There's also this movie called The Magic Voyage I want to review, which is this really bizarre Christopher Columbus film. That sounds like something that'd be really fun to do for Thanksgiving, but like I said, those are just a few things. As of TV shows, I'm not entirely sure about that, but we'll have to wait and see in the future, okay? What movies, shows, characters do you have in store for the future of How Would I Fix? I think it would be cool to see Norm of the North but way better, or Pixels but just as funny as Happy Gilmore. Heck, I'd be willing to give a sequel to your version of Big Hero 6 a chance. Well, if I'm being perfectly honest, I'm not entirely sure how to bring back the How Would I Fix series. I don't want to just sit in front of a computer and just try to explain what my idea for the story is. Instead, I'd rather actually do something about it, like actually make a show or like a comic strip or something, and I would have to find like a real good team to actually do that. And being a small channel with like just a little under 4,700 subscribers, yeah, I don't think that's happening anytime soon, to be honest. Yeah, I just don't really think it's fun to just sit down and explain what I would do with a story, instead just actually do a story. So if I was to bring back How Would I Fix, I would probably do something like Masako X's Dragon Ball R&R series, where it's like an actual comic book that would actually tell a story and have actors and try to do that sort of thing, That's just how I would do things. As for ideas, though, yeah, I would probably try and do Big Hero 6 the series. I thought about doing stuff like Astro Boy, finishing The Lamp of Time, doing Sahara, some of the older movies that I reviewed a long time ago, but like I said, if I was to bring back How Would I Fix, I would want to do it right. Okay, so any thoughts on reviewing an American Tail or All Dogs Go to Heaven in the future? Well, yeah, those are Don Bluth films, and I do want to review every Don Bluth film, including its sequels as well. So, yeah, An American Tail and All Dogs Go to Heaven are on the list. It's just going to take some time to actually get to them. As for Titan AE, yeah, that's actually one I'm really interested in seeing because I've actually never seen that movie before. And yeah, I've heard people compare it unfavorably to Treasure Planet, and I don't know, I think it's a bit unfair because it came out before Treasure Planet, but we're going to have to wait and see, as again, I've never really seen it, so again, I don't know what to say about it yet. What kind of editing software and filming equipment do you use? Interesting story, actually. If you saw my Anastasia video, you'd probably notice that some of the editing in that video is a little wonky. Well, that's because the old webcam that I was using was finally starting to go out and everything, so yeah, it actually kind of altered a lot of the footage. It was a lot of stilted stuff, and it was just all around really bad, all around. So I tried to make it work with the best that I could and everything. It's also the reason why the review took so long to render, and it became a bit of a mess all around, so I had to order a brand new webcam. I'm now using a Logitech Brio, which is able to film in 4K, which I think is really impressive. Not saying my reviews are going to be in 4K from now on, I'm just saying, it's a pretty damn good webcam. As for my editing equipment, I use Adobe Premiere Elements 2020, which is just a really fantastic editing software. For the longest time, I used to just use Adobe Premiere 2016, which was a really outdated version, and I stuck with that for years for some reason. I don't really know why. Finally, I decided to just go and update it and everything, and let me just say, that was like the best decision I ever could have made because I had so many new tools to work with, and I was able to make my reviews a lot better because of it. So if you're looking for a good editing software yourself, Adobe Premiere is what I'd recommend, to be honest. How often do you collab with other YouTubers or content creators? Well, to be perfectly honest, I prefer to review movies by myself, but sometimes bringing a guest star for a collab of some kind, be it a cameo or a full-on collab for a review and everything, can really spice up a review, such as my Robin Hood review with Brandon Crocker, the Lion King 2 review, also with Brandon Crocker, or my Mulan 2 review with Genlo and the Dragon. I actually want to work with Genlong again to review Mulan 2020 in the future, but she's told me she's pretty busy right now with her own stuff right now, so I'm going to wait until she's ready to actually review it, but when she's ready, I'll be ready. But yeah, I love working with other people and everything, although if I'm being honest, I do prefer reviewing movies by myself. What is your favorite subject in history to read/watch documentaries about? Well, that's kind of an interesting question to answer. Mainly anything that's happened within the last century. Mainly anything involving World War I, World War II, the Cold War, and pretty much other things involving that time period. World War I, in my opinion, is very fascinating as it's a much more complicated conflict overall. I mean, with World War II, it's pretty easy to see who the bad guy was. But with World War I, it was far different. The battles were interesting, the stories are really fascinating, there was a super kick-ass Battlefield game to come out of it, Sabaton made a kick-ass album about it. It's just, damn, World War I is just really fucking fascinating. I hope to do something about it in the future, honestly. Are there any big projects you're working on right now? As a matter of fact, there is. There's something really big I'm doing for Christmas, and I'm actually going to start asking around for editors and everything to help me out with it, as I want to try to get it out by Christmas. I'm not going to reveal what it is, but let's just say it's a really big one, and if you've been a fan of the channel for a long time, this is going to be a really cool callback for you guys. Is there any equipment you hope to get in the future for your channel? Well, it depends. What equipment do you guys recommend? Because, honestly, I'm a little sick of using old webcams and everything. I'm sorry, I'm just not really a huge tech-savvy guy, so I'm really not 100% sure what the best cameras and microphones are for YouTube. So, you know, I really am looking for the best stuff, and I want to get the best stuff. So, you know, if any of you know about any super amazing tech stuff, then I highly recommend you guys help me out here. So, you know, let me know in the comments what you guys know about. What video game systems do you own? Well, for the longest time, I've always been a PlayStation guy. I have a PS2, a PS3, a PS4, and I still don't have a PS5. So that makes me just like pretty much everybody else. On top of all that, I also have a Nintendo DS and an old Nintendo 64 as well. I have a Nintendo Wii and a Wii U somewhere. I want to get a Switch soon, but just lately haven't had the time to really go to GameStop and get one. I know in my attic somewhere I have one of those weird, like, third-party systems that just have really old games on them. I don't really know what it's called, but you probably know what I'm talking about. Will you ever consider reviewing the Percy Jackson movies? Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I don't really remember those movies. I mean, I've never even seen the second one, and I barely remember the first one whatsoever, so I'm not sure there really is much to talk about. I mean, never say never, but as of right now, I have no plans for it. Sorry. What do you think of the Owl House and Amphibia? Owl House? I fucking love it. It's like my child. I can't get enough of Owl House. It's just so inventive and imaginative. The animation's gorgeous. The characters are fantastic and great. It's just such a unique and interesting world. Another thing I really like about it, especially with Season 2, is the overall pacing. How the show isn't really just messing around, it's just going and telling the story as it is. Like, it actually really makes me look back on Steven Universe and go, really? I thought you were amazing? Because Steven Universe had a lot of filler content that really was kind of pointless overall in the long run. But with Owl House, they're like, no, we're not giving you filler. We're just gonna tell the story, and it's just a huge breath of fresh air in my opinion. I love it. It's also a really good show for LGBT audiences, and I highly recommend it for that. It's got really good representation. I'm really happy for it. As for Amphibia, I haven't watched Amphibia yet. Yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't fully sat down and watched it yet. I've seen a few episodes so far of Season 1, and I thought it was alright. Like I said, I didn't think it was anything special at the time, but I've heard recently it's gotten a lot better, so I'm probably going to sit down and rewatch it later down the line. So, there's that. Do you think Disney should do a live-action remake of Pocahontas, Hunchback, or Anastasia? No, no, and no. First of all, Pocahontas is a horrible piece of trash, and I'm actually planning on re-reviewing it in the future. Hunchback, there's no way Disney's ever going to do Hunchback again. There's no way, okay? Disney was already pushing the envelope pretty far with the animated version, so there's no way they would do another movie. And even if they made it like a PG-13 movie like Mulan 2020, yeah, I'm willing to bet they'd botch that up. As for Anastasia, I'm not really sure they ever would even consider it, as Anastasia was never truly their property to begin with. They just bought that movie. They didn't make it. That was Don Bluth. So, yeah, to answer your question, no, no, and no. Have you heard of Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl? If so, are you planning on getting it? I have heard about it, and no, I'm not getting it. I've just never really been a big fan of combat games. Like, I've never played Smash or anything, so, you know, I'm just not that audience. Sorry. Can you review Bolt? No. Sorry, no. Yeah, sorry, no. Bolt just seems like a perfectly okay kids film to me. Like, it's not great, in my opinion. Like, you know, there really isn't much else to say. Like, it's a perfectly fine kids film. That's really the best way to sum it up, sorry. Would you review The Road to El Dorado? Maybe. Yeah, I might actually in the future. I'd have to rewatch this. It's been a few years, but I remember really enjoying that movie, and Shell is muy thick. So, yes, never say never. It's not on my initial review plan for now, but yeah, I'll consider it. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? That is a very good question, to be honest. But to be perfectly honest, I really don't like to think about that, to be honest with you. Because there's no telling what will happen in 10 years. For all we know, I could die within the next 10 years. Hell, I could probably die next week, and I really don't like to think about that. Personally, I just like to kind of live things day by day and everything. In 10 years, I might still be reviewing movies and be a big channel on YouTube. Or maybe in 10 years, YouTube would be completely dead and we'll have to move to some new site. Maybe in 10 years, I'll find some new profession that I want to do and decide to focus on that instead. Like I said, it's really hard to say what I'll be doing in 10 years, so you know, like I said, I've never really given it much thought. I prefer to just live day by day, and that's really about it. Who are some of your favorite filmmakers? Oh dear lord, where do I begin with this? Well, of course, there are the people who worked at Pixar and everything, excluding John Lasseter. I used to like John Lasseter, but then the whole thing about him being a total creep came out, and yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Pete Docter himself is a really fantastic guy. Don Bluth, as we all know, is an amazing filmmaker. Steven Spielberg has made some of my all-time favorite movies, like Saving Private Ryan, like just all around fantastic, and Land Before Time, of course, as we all know. James Gunn has proven himself to be just a fantastic director all around. I recently saw Suicide Squad and everything, and I was just blown away. It's like, dude, oh my god, direct more R-rated movies. That shit was so fucking funny. There's like so many filmmakers I have that I look up to and inspire to be and everything, so it's actually really hard to answer just with a few answers. But those are some of the filmmakers that come straight to my head. What is the worst film you reviewed so far? Well, that is a good question. On the one hand, I still look back on Elf Bowling, the movie, and get cancer from it. On the other hand, I think the movie I'm reviewing for Halloween might honestly take that spot. Since it's Scary Month, what are your favorite horror movies? Classics. The classic horror films. The original Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, those classics, I fucking love. I watch those every year at Halloween. I can't get enough of them. Those movies are just so fucking good. I mean, some of them are kind of cheesy and everything, but Halloween has got to be like a cinematic masterpiece. In the future, I actually hope to review it someday to talk about how amazing it is, but like I said, I have plans for Halloween, so maybe next year we'll talk about the original Halloween movie and why it's a horror classic. But for now, I'm gonna get back to Bigfoot. Who's your favorite band / singer? That is a very good question. I have so many favorite bands and everything, it's not even funny. When it comes to pop punk music, it's really hard to pick. It's somewhere between Simple Plan, State Champs, or A Day to Remember. It's actually kind of funny. Like, during literally any other time and everything, I could come up with this. But if you ask me on the spot and everything, I just kind of freeze up and go, Nicki Minaj. When I don't mean Nicki Minaj. I don't even listen to her. But yeah, I think right now my favorite band at the moment is currently Sabaton. I discovered them right before my vacation and everything, and I've just kind of fallen in love with them. A heavy metal band that focuses specifically on history. Like, oh my god, guys, sign me up. I fucking love it. It's so good. They actually have a new album coming out based around World War I, and this will be the second album about World War I that they're coming out with. And I'm just so hyped for it. It looks awesome. It sounds awesome, and I can't wait. It's gonna be great. Which sequel franchises of a bad movie would you consider worse? Norm of the North sequels or Alpha and Omega sequels? Well, I haven't really sat down and watched the Alpha and Omega sequels, so I really can't answer this question, to be perfectly honest. But if I'm going to take a shot in the dark, I would say the Alpha and Omega movies are probably worse because of what I've heard about them. The Norm of the North movies, I've sat down and naturally reviewed and everything, and they're just so mundane and dull. Like, they don't do anything super crazy or weird or anything. They're just really boring, typical, generic kids films at this point. Like, honestly and arguably, they've gotten better over time. Like, looking back on them now, the second movie is easily the worst, but only because they try to market one movie when they were only 2 movies instead. But, yeah, they're just really bland movies, honestly. But as I said, I can't really fully answer this question as I've never seen the Alpha and Omega sequels, so yeah, it's not really an easy question to answer, to me, honestly. What Pixar movie would you give a series to? Man, that's a really good question. I mean, Monsters, Inc. just got a TV series. Cars technically has a series with all those frickin' Mater shorts and everything. I really don't know. Some Pixar movies really don't need to have series, honestly, because, like, they just kind of end perfectly. Movies like Soul, for example, like, I feel like a sequel would really ruin it, to be honest. I guess The Incredibles would have a pretty cool TV show, as, you know, with the superhero thing and the show focusing on family. You could do some really cool stuff with that. That could be really interesting. What movies do you like that most people don't? That's a good question, actually. Well, I reviewed 300 a few months ago. I think that's a movie that most people tend to just kind of dislike, honestly. Like, I know it has decent reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, but most people like to look at 300 and everything and think, oh, that's just a really stupid action movie with blood and guts and boobs and everything. It's not a smart film and everything. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. But goddammit, it's fun, so shut up. Yeah, that's just one of those movies that I like that most people probably shouldn't like. I mean, I know a lot of people do like it, but, you know, if you're talking critics, then they probably would say they hated it. Especially with all the controversy surrounding the movie and everything, and, oh, if you like 300, then I guess you're supporting whitewashing, and, oh, sexism and racism, and it's just a bunch of stupid shit. It's dumb. Speaking of which, what are movies that everyone likes, but you don't, besides Big Hero 6? So I have one movie that I know I didn't like, that I know is probably gonna spite people. I did not care for Wish Dragon. Yeah, I did not care about that movie at all. It is so, honestly, pretty basic, honestly. Like, I really didn't care about it. I thought the villain was kind of a joke. I thought the story was pretty much just Aladdin reincarnated, and I pretty much got that vibe from the trailers that it was just going to be Aladdin with Chinese people instead, and I just really didn't care. I mean, that was okay, I guess. I don't know, I heard everybody just singing the movie's phrasings like, oh, it's so cool looking and so imaginative and everything, and I'm like, it's just Aladdin again, and that's all it was, pretty much. It was just Aladdin, pretty much, only worse. Didn't have the good music. The animation honestly looked kind of cheap for a Sony movie. Like, I mean, I know not every Sony movie has to look like Spider-Verse, but it just didn't look that good to me. It looked very direct-to-video quality, if I'm being honest. It just really wasn't that great of a movie, honestly. I didn't hate it. I just thought it was meh. And I just don't get why everyone was falling in love with it. I mean, it's fine if you like it, but it really was not the movie for me. But yeah, I think that's enough questions for today. So yeah, sorry if some of these answers were all over the place, but some of these questions are just honestly pretty hard to answer, but yeah, it was fun answering questions. So like I said, I like to try and do a Q&A at least once a year from here on out. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the answers. Hopefully it was satisfying for you guys. So thanks guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay awesome, guys. Rock on.